Hey, what's going on, you dusty pieces of chalk? Welcome to week 8 of Look Who's Chalking. And I call you dusty pieces of chalk because maybe that's what you're dressing up as for Halloween, which is this weekend. I know once Gary, myself, and a few others, we proposed being FanDuel prices. We were all going to go out as a roster in FanDuel prices, and we were just going to assemble like a full lineup as if a regular person would know. Like, who's that? Count Dracula. Who's that? T. Higgins for 5,200. Like, no, it's not going to work. But
our friend Pete was going to be Andre Roberts for 3,100.
That's so funny. Well, Halloween's not the only holiday we're celebrating this weekend. It's going to be the 1-year anniversary of Gary blasting that millionaire, winning the Millie Maker. So I don't know. Is that something that you find exciting or depressing now that it's not this week?
Well,
or maybe it is.
As you can imagine, I'm still not over 2 weeks ago when I lost $970,000 and should have won again. And I'm still kicking myself for that. As you said, I'm going to be telling my grandkids about it when I'm 95. So,
yep, you're not the only one. I mean, now look, this is going to be even less than that. It's going to be maybe 1/100th of that level of sickness, but I'm sick over not just Allen Robinson. I mean, it's bad when your Men's Warehouse pick of the week tanks, but my suit split right down the middle on a dance move. I tried something bold. Like, it wasn't just the monkey that I tried. I tried a full split, Van Damme style, and my Men's Warehouse split right down the middle. And it's a dual feeling because it upsets me that I did that. However, if you guys saw the lineup that I posted, it's different when Gary has so many lineups. Some are going to look so fantastic, but I told you I'm a Willy Wonka style player. The big tournament that I always look at is the power sweep. I always send Gary my power sweep. The power sweep is 3 entries max, and I cashed 2 out of 3 last week and cashed 2 out of 3 this week, which is not easy, And I had a lineup with all super studs except for the Justin Fields stack, and I'm sick at not only Allen Robinson, Mooney, and Justin Fields, who in junk time, down 30 points. Hey, Bucks, can you just give the guy a few easy ones? That was my plan. It's not like I thought he was good. I thought it was going to be fully game script dependent, and that the Bucks would just mail it in, and if I had a free touchdown and a half, I'm winning the power sweep. That's how close I was with all my other players. And I'm sick. I know nobody likes to hear losses. It's like when a poker player tells his bad beats, but just know I'm sick.
I know. And you know what? It's fair. The Bear, I was scared of that Bears side of things. The Tampa side was fine. And what's going to be so interesting, if you do find a team that could be somewhat competent against this Bucs team, they're never going to stop throwing. So the other side of that matchup in certain weeks is going to make sense, even when it maybe doesn't seem like the best matchup in the world. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just so terrified of that whole Bears team and Justin Fields and what Nagy has going on there, any of the receivers. Aside from maybe Khalil Herbert right now, who I like quite a bit, just with such a big role. But the rest of that team is it is sickening.
Brutal. But that, we're all about bold choices here, which is why we're both wearing teal around Halloween time. Or at least I could speak for myself.
You love Halloween, right, Andy? That's one of your favorites?
Halloween is my go-to holiday. All these other holidays out there are all a scam. You got like New Year's Eve. I've talked about this on my own podcast. I'm not even going to shout it out because I don't know if you people are going to like what I have to say on there. However, New Year's Eve, it's all a scam. You get jacked up prices. You have to buy tickets, and then you get kicked out of a place that's normally open till 4 in the morning. You get kicked out at 1 a.m. because it's a ticketed event, but the night before it was open till 4 a.m. Then there's no cabs available. Uber's 10x price, all to go out with somebody who's probably going to fight you. The fighters are out New Year's Eve. I can get into every single holiday, but Halloween, the weather's perfect. A little cool, but you could still nowadays you could wear shorts, and you got horror movies. It's just my holiday. It's my holiday. Okay? And that's all I got to say.
I get it. And it's never been my thing. I'm not into the dressing up. Maybe I've just never been festive about it. I don't know what it is.
Interestingly enough, I'm not either. I'm I'm a horror movie enjoyer, and I like to scare the shit out of kids at the front door.
Well, you walk around.
Hey, look. It's trick or treat. It's not treat or treat. It's trick or treat. And I utilize the trick option. Okay?
Yeah. And, you walk around New York City and there's just all these ghouls around that night. You see ridiculous costumes. And
what do you mean? It's Halloween. It's Halloween on April 9th in New York City. You kidding me? It's The Walking Dead out there.
Fair enough.
All right. Now I got a treat for you, and it's week 8. So here we go. Looking into week 8 of the season this year, a lot of the teams who many stacks are normally built around have some primetime games, but there's still a couple good ones on there. Kind of like last week, you're not getting two juggernauts against each other. You're getting some high projected totals versus some lower projected totals. But out of all these games, where do you want to start your deli order as you look up at the board? What are you seeing? The Genoa salami? What do you got?
That's a good call. I think let's start with the ones. And there are some really interesting ones there. And I think we should start with what is one of the biggest spreads. And I think it's a good place to start because it's the most expensive quarterback on the slate. And that is the Bills at home in division against the Dolphins. With Josh Allen, you got a game total of 49.5. I believe the Bills have the highest implied team total on this slate. So I think that's an interesting place to start.
Absolutely. And when you look, when you click that first Draftkings, if you're a person who opens your lineup and you start with the quarterback and say, what do we got for this week? Josh Allen's literally smiling at you in his picture. You
Yes.
open that thing and he's just there smiling, and it's hard not to want to choose him coming off the bye at home against the team that he's historically dominated.
Coming
it's
off a
just
loss.
hard. It's hard. Yeah, a loss. They've been stewing over it. It's hard not to want to play him against the Dolphins. And I really have no excuses this time around. Sometimes I give you like, Josh Allen, they're home. They always play better defense at home. And like that Steelers game. And then even against Houston when they threw him a beatdown, rested in the fourth quarter, Miami's good enough to keep it close. Division right. The recipe's there for a pretty damn big day.
It is, and we'll get into this a little bit as we go on here, but I actually like a lot of the spend down spots at quarterback this week, which is usually not something that I necessarily go to, but I think there's some really interesting options in the 5-6 range at QB. So I think you can get Josh Allen at 8,100 as by far the most expensive quarterback on the slate, with Stafford coming in a little bit behind him at an ownership discount here. And I think, an Allen Diggs stack, because they're both very expensive, is going to probably be one of the lower owned stacks on the slate.
Really?
With easily one of the highest ceilings. I would imagine, yes. Because
that's shocking.
Josh Allen is 8,100.
Now, while you look up those percent, while you take a quick gander at the percentages, look, sometimes I got to give some entertainment. So I just want to say something quickly. When I was 18 years old and I wanted to gamble and I went to Montreal where it was legal, they have 2 roulette wheels. One had 2 zeros, a single zero and a double zero. That was the American one. The Canadian one only has 1 zero, believe it or not. And I was betting on the outsides. So you would have to be out of your mind to choose the American version, which has 2 zeros. However, in some weird, karmic justice type thing, only when I played outsides on the American wheel, I went on huge runs. I went on huge red runs. If I ever tried the wheel with better odds, I lost every single time. And in those power sweeps, the 2 out of 3s where I said I've hit the last 2 weeks, my cash-in quarterbacks have been Jared Goff and Justin Fields this week, and last week my biggest payout was Mac Jones. It's like they're doing that thing with me where they're trying to say, go ahead, do that great stack, do that Josh Allen stack, see where it gets you. It's like I'm being rewarded for taking trash quarterbacks, even if they don't pan out.
It's funny, though, because this week I actually think there are plays that I would even play in that range. So, it's like you're almost set up even better for that kind of strategy, because there's just interesting prices throughout the slate, particularly on DraftKings here. And, again, Diggs, so basically Diggs is 8,100, Josh Allen's 8,100, both very expensive. Diggs is probably too expensive for what he has actually produced this year, but it's a fantastic spot. The Dolphins have given up the fourth most fantasy points to wide receivers. I think it's a complete smash spot for him. And right now, he's coming in at 8.8% on early ownership. If you can get him sub 10% with some really, really, big time percentages, I think, coming in on guys like Cooper Kupp this week, and then some running backs like Daryl Henderson, Deebo Samuel looks like he's coming in through a lot. So I think that at that price, there'll be a lot of my build that is Josh Allen with Diggs, and I'm totally cool with double stacking either Beasley or Sanders because Dawson Knox is gone. I think Beasley's
that's going to be. I was about
to
say the semi-regular guy. This isn't a fully regular guy, but the semi-regular guy who wears a hat 3 times a week. He's just saying like, "Oh wow, their tight ends out, and what are they going to do when they want to go over the middle?" Got to get Beasley in there for that price.
It's not a bad call. And then also, though, if you really want to, you can go to their $2,900 tight end. What is his name? Tommy Sweeney. And, my whole thing with paying down a tight end, I'm totally fine doing it, but usually I like to do it with correlation in my game stack. So, for example, if I'm using Carson Wentz this week, go for Mo Alley Cox at 3,100. If you're doing a double stack with Diggs and you want to save some money, go with Tommy Sweeney at 2,900, who's coming in.
Tommy Sweeney is that kid who wasn't good enough to make the soccer team growing up, but his mom called and complained and then eventually got him onto the team. How about on the other side of that game? Yeah. As I ask you a question, I'm going to start it myself. A person that I would like to run back, I believe with the huge production these last 2 weeks, people are going to alternate. You're going to have some Gesicki, some Waddles. With Devontae Parker coming back, you know who I actually want to play? I want to play Dinky Myles Gaskin with Brown going out because he's going to be involved as a receiver. When he is productive, a lot of it's coming through the air. And now that he's going to get maybe... They've been rotating touches way too much for anybody's liking. He had a monstrous week against Tampa Bay, then came back literally nothing, just 4 touches or something like that. And last week, being forced into a bigger role because Brown was out, we're looking at the Myles Gaskin of last year, or closer to it, and great utilization. And in a game where they're likely, not guaranteed, but likely to be trailing, you can see a ton of receptions there and a bunch of work. So I think Gaskin would be a good run back.
I love that, Andy. You're thinking like a true MME tournament player with that kind of call because 3% owned right now on early Myles Gaskin returns. The game script works perfectly. The way I look at this, there's 3 run back options on the Dolphins. It's Waddle, it's Gesicki just because he's playing like a true wide receiver. He's really not lining up like a tight end. And then it's Myles Gaskin who works in so many different ways. One, game script should be completely in his favor. As you mentioned, we've seen what he's done as a receiving back, but also, he works as a pivot to that 5K range on the running back. Kenny Gainwell's probably going to be chalk. I think Eli Mitchell's coming through with some early ownership. All these guys in the similar range to him. So I love Gaskin, particularly on a run back. But I also think if you want, you can go no run back with this Bills team this week. It could be like that 40-7 type of game. So I'm comfortable with a skinny run back, double run back, skinny no run back. Double would probably throw in either Gaskin, Waddle, or Gesicki. But
like Atkins diet variations. So do you know if the Rams hosting? Oh, I'm sorry. The Houston Texans hosting the Rams is a 1:00er. I believe it is. Something's telling me it is.
Yes, it is. It is a 1:00.
Okay, so this is a game. You got the Rams. They have the second highest projected point total on the board. We're going to ask the question that we're going to have to bring up every single time somebody plays Houston. Is Houston going to play well enough to keep the starting offense on the field and keep the starting offense on the field throwing? Believe it or not, last week you saw that. They played well enough to keep Arizona's offense on the field the entire game. The only thing that screwed you if you were an Arizona person is the same thing that's going to be screwing everybody all year now. Weapons galore. And now they added Ertz. So without getting into Arizona too much, but the quarterback, Murray, was on the field the whole game, throwing it the whole game. And now they got your boy, Tyrod Taylor, coming back. So
is Tyrod definitely back? Have you heard that?
Those. Somebody we know gave me a confirmed tweet last night. And when you're talking next, I'll take a quick look at it. Okay. But I believe he's going to be back. So get those checkdowns nice and ready. One of my quick thoughts was something that I said last week. You're going to have Jalen Ramsey matched up against Cooks. And in a game where they're likely to be leading by quite a bit, who's next on the pecking order, if you don't mind reminding us all?
You talking about my boy and yours, Nico?
Leading receiver last week, all 32 yards of Nico Collins, but all 3,200 of Nico Collins. And when I'm looking at this game, I say Henderson had a miserable week. He screwed everybody. By virtue of screwing people, they don't want to go back to you the next week. The same way as people get screwed in season long, they never want to draft that person the next year. I take that same concept and apply it to DFS. He was the highest owned running back last week, if I'm not incorrect, definitely top 3, screwed everyone, and I think you'll get a lower ownership on him because of that. And if you run Nico Collins back the other way, what a weird secondary stack that could yield high positive results.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And, you bring up Daryl Henderson. I think we have to talk about him. I think at that price, I'm guessing he's going to be chalky again. But at the price of 6,500 in this matchup, it's just a misprice for this slate. He should be mid sevens easily. And, I think that he's coming through at 17% early ownership run. It's not enough. It's not enough. He's
Gary. I mean, you're speaking from, like you just said, oh, that was great tournament play. Thinking, well, the majority of players, believe it or not, are still regular guys, and they got burned. People do not like getting burned, and that's what. Even DraftKings, when they drop the price, they go, "Oh my God, we can't up the price. Nobody will play him. They screwed everyone." By the way, 2 straight weeks, the major running backs screwed people. Kareem Hunt, when Nick Chubb wasn't there, did nothing, and now Daryl Henderson screwed everyone. Just a random note.
No, it's true, and that's the only reason that because his price is so good that we're not seeing 30% ownership is because of last week. So coming through at 17% at a 6,500 with the best game environment of all running backs this week, that is too low. So you're right. I think that is probably what's keeping it down.
Hold that thought of best running back
there's a lot of solid plays this week, but I think pretty objectively,
we'll hit the juicy one next.
Henderson's in a pretty good spot here. But
of course.
Regardless,
anybody else?
Let's talk about Cooper Kupp, right? We have to. So he's basically
the new Michael Thomas.
He is, right? That's a great way to put it, because look at his targets: 13, 12, 10, 13, 12, 11, 10. So double-digit targets in every single game this week. He's at every single game this year. He's had 2 touchdowns in 4 of 7 games. He's broken 4 or 5 slates altogether. So I mean, we have to be considering this guy very seriously every week. This isn't like a small sample size anymore. And of course, this matchup doesn't scare you. We've also seen now many times where he gets there, even if the Rams blow out, because they are taking it more conservatively in the second half. So he's been getting there where Stafford hasn't. So I might be less down on Ram stacks this week because I like the Bills more, but I definitely still like Kupp just fine,
Cool. And Woods a little too expensive for not enough production these days. And Higbee not getting as much as we would have hoped for. Although
this is the best Higbee matchup there is. The Texans really can't stop a leak on tight end. So either, I like if say you have that 4K range to fit your tight end, depending on your build, I like Higbee just fine. But I definitely like him with correlation in any Stafford stacks this week. Doubles with Kupp or Woods.
All right. So a rival to Henderson would be a running back that my guess is going to be this week's Henderson from last week and Kareem Hunt from 2 weeks ago. And that's going to be Joe Mixon going up against the New York Jets, who just got absolutely waxed. Damian Williams. Damian
Harris, yep.
There are 4. Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, Damian Harris, Darrell Henderson. Okay, trick or treat.
You got a lot of them.
Trick or treat. So Joe Mixon going up against the Jets. You saw what the Patriots running backs just did to him last week. Go ahead. Bring up that chalk. Let me see the dust.
So I think this all stuff really needs to settle in, because we're only on Wednesday here, and this ownership stuff changes quite a bit.
Of course.
But believe it or not, and it might be the price and the constructions this week that a lot of people are going to that lower tier. He's only around 10% right now. So you got guys like Henderson, Eckler, Kamara, Deandre Swift, definitely, Derrick Henry, all coming in more. James Robinson, all coming in more highly owned.
Something to just know if you are going to be one of those mix-in players. Pirine wasn't there 2 weeks ago or 2 games ago, and he blew up. He was able to get into the end zone this week, but he got yanked on almost every third down. And if you're going to limit his ability to catch the ball, because the game without Pirine, he had 6 catches. Who would have thought we were going to get Giovanni Bernarded again with Pirine? It's unbelievable. So just be weary, mixing people, that not only can they blow them out and then rest him late in the game, as they did this past week, you might not be getting past game work. And now all of a sudden, a little bit of touchdown dependency. I don't know. Just something to think about.
Yeah, let's just talk about this game in general just for a quick sec because
Yeah, of course.
If Mixon does come in to be a little bit chalky at that high price, plus you nailed it with his use in the passing game role, it's very concerning. So there's that. And then you think, okay, how what's a pivot off of that? Joe Burrow stacks. Jamar Chase has been unworldly. I think we both like T. Higgins this week, who's getting a lot of targets. So
Tons, yeah.
But then you dig a little deeper. And this game just looks ugly to me. I think it started at a 44-point game total. It's gone down to 42. And I could just see this being kind of like Cincinnati winning like 28-7 and just, not necessarily being a game that you really want to be attacking, especially as I've kind of dove into the slate more and I see a bunch of spots that I'm interested in from game stacks perspective on all different tiers and ranges. I might be more lenient to stay away from this game while I haven't fully decided if I'm using Burrow or not.
There's one guy that I want to point out simply because if you watched last week's game against the Patriots, you're like, wow, how awful are the Jets, right? But if you dig, as Gary said, you dig a little deeper, that quarterback, is his name White? Their replacement quarterback? Yeah, Mike White, who got confirmed as the starter for this weekend, even though they traded for Flacco, is going to be starting again. Watch how many dump-offs this guy gave off. Carter had 9 catches, I believe. It was in between 7 and 10. And it's not like he's going to become some world beater winging it all over the field. Carter is mid 4,000s or 48, something like that. And if you're going to be getting a free 6 catches, which is what more or less I think is going to be coming, he's somebody I'm thinking about. It's just me, though. I'm not asking anybody else to.
So, I'm loving your cheap running back sniffs this week, Andy, because both on Gaskin and Carter, who's coming through. I even got
one more coming later.
Good, because Carter's coming through at like 3% owned right now. He went 8 for 67 through the air. Mike White clearly is not like ready to really manage an NFL game, meaning lots and lots of dump offs there. If you do go Mixon, if you go Chase, if you go Burrow stacks, I like him as a run back, but I'm totally good with him on his own, just into any construction at 4,900. I actually think on DraftKings in a full PPR format, there's a real floor there for him this week. So
perfect. I'll allow you to take the next one if you want to stay at the ones or move over. We got
a couple more ones.
I think the Titans was one that you enjoyed.
Yeah, so let's talk Titans Colts. So this game is actually fascinating to me because I don't think I've ever played Carson Wentz in MME before in my entire life, and I think that changes this week. So Colts are at home, 5,700 for Carson Wentz. I know what the Titans did defensively to the Chiefs last week, but that's not the Titans' real defense. I think that's the Chiefs being more the Chiefs than anything else, which is not a good team right now. And, even in that monsoon on, Sunday night, Carson Wentz still put up 21 points, managed to, get 2 touchdowns through a nice deep ball at the end of the game to Pippen, and he's playing pretty well. The last 4 weeks, he's got a quarterback rating over 100, 115, 128, 130. And he's got consistently 2 touchdowns in every game. And this matchup at home against a weak Titans pass defense is just really attractive. His main target, Michael Pittman, is only 5,300, who's coming in as just one of the best overall plays on this slate. I don't think there's any doubt. And, on the other side of it, the Titans offense is really starting to get into gear. Also, A.J. Brown looked like A.J. Brown for the first time last week. So I think this is a real game stack environment with what right now has this opened as a 47.5 over under all the way up to 50.5. So people are looking at this game now in Vegas as a real potential shootout. So I like this spot. I really do. How about you?
I absolutely like it as well. I will say this is something I've brought up before, and it's from the years of gambling. Anytime you get a game in prime time, more eyes, more focus, and it sticks in people's head a little bit stronger. The same way I've said, Mahomes struggled, and that Carson Wentz thing, and everybody gassing him up on Sunday Night Football. Collins, this is the best we've ever seen him. So you're cash. No, I don't know. That's me answering the door on Halloween and doing Chris Collinsworth at the same. Or there's also a little like California surfer in there, man.
Yeah, there is. Oh, totally.
So you're not going to be the only one thinking that. People saw Pittman sky over which cornerback was that who used to play with the Cincinnati Bengals and score the touchdown. And they see Wentz doing that. And when they see him cheap, I bet you there's going to be carryover effect from that. So something tells me there's going to be a little more Wentz use than we would have hoped for. But I agree with you regardless, even if there is going to be ownership. I would be more likely to do a Wentz stack than play Jonathan Taylor, because although he's extremely productive, man, as long as Mac's there, and this doesn't get talked about enough, I do not like how often he gets rotated off the field. What he's doing right now is making the absolute most out of his work in a fantastic fashion, but it does scare me a little bit. And I like all three of the big Titans.
Yep.
Julio, AJ, and Derrick Henry. And I only say Julio because he got through a full game without getting injured. So this is one of the random Julio spots where if you're going to roll the dice with him without worrying about the hamstring, this is probably one where you can do it playing indoors, and he's under 6,000. Just something to know.
Yeah, no, and I'm fine with the Tannehill side of this also. But the way I look at this is $300 difference, I think, where Wentz is, actually, no. A $900 difference. Wentz is $900 cheaper than Tannehill. And I think from a price per dollar standpoint, with the Colts at home and both teams being vulnerable through the air, I'd almost just always rather go to that spot. Because if Tannehill does have a good game, that means Wentz is playing from behind, and that's even juicier. It's like those Jalen Hurts weeks that we've had all year. So, I'm with you. I like all those dudes. And I mentioned Mo Alley Cox before. In this game stacks, I'll be using him plenty. I won't be using him outside of that. But it's the same type of thing this week, especially where most of the big dogs of tight ends are off the slate. Kelsey and Waller. I like, pairing the cheap tight ends with your quarterback.
By the way, I've already said before, I'm sick. I'm a disgrace for Allen Robinson. But man, if one of these companies wants to hire me for something, how about my sneaky sniffs about games that people aren't playing? Last week, I said there's something weird about the Falcons game. And then I said there's something weird about that Raiders game. Two of the highest 3-point totals on the board that weren't highly played games when you looked at everything that was out there with the Chiefs and I got a big nose. I got a big Sicilian nose, and those nostrils provide me with clear sniffs on a weekly basis. And this one, it could be one, but that sniff is something weird to me about, well, we don't have to break down the game. Atlanta hosting Carolina. Now that Matt Ryan has some of his dinky weapons back, even guys like Gage, where he at least has the full complement of people, and now he could utilize Pitts the way he wants to. And I know he was shadowed by Xavier Howard, he was shadowed by Xavier Howard last week. You got Ridley over there, and on the other side, Chuba Hubbard is going to be. Chuba Hubbard's going to be a good play because he was one of the highest owned running backs last week. People loved him. He screwed everyone. I love people who screwed everyone in life and in DFS. So I'm going to be looking at some secondary stacks in that game, and you don't really have to break it down, but I just wanted to say.
I'll just say I agree. I like it for secondaries. I like DJ Moore this week quite a bit, actually. I think he's got a really high floor. Robbie Anderson, you still have to sprinkle in tournaments just from the target share, even though he looks completely lost.
Yep.
And Ridley, I think, again, is another bounce back spot in secondary stacks. And Cordarrelle Patterson, man, 73% of snaps, finally got a lot more rushing work on top of the receiving work. Wow. Mike Davis being phased out completely. He is a total workhorse and has a really high floor. So a lot of interesting secondary stack options in that game. One more 1 o'clock we have to hit, and that is the Eagles-Lions. So this game actually trending in the wrong direction from a team total perspective. Game total started at 48.5, is now 47.5. And I think Vegas is a little bit confused at who's going to actually be leading this one because the Eagles are favored by 3 on the road in Detroit, but I don't know how much better the Eagles are than the Lions. So, I like
not. They're awful.
Right. So, and I like Hurts stacks a lot this week. And there are pieces throughout this game, but it's kind of, you have to figure out the right way to attack it because there's going to be some interesting chalk spots. Like I think Dallas Goedert is coming through as the highest owned tight end this week, which makes me want to avoid it unless I'm actually using,
he got Hurts 3 catches last week. I'm just not, no.
But I'll say this, Deandre Swift is like getting Kamara usage. both through on the ground and through the air right now, and looks incredible. But he really stacks up his points when they're playing from behind. So if you think
I was about to say,
Eagles,
can I give my theory on him? You need them to be playing a good team because they know behind closed doors he's a lot better than Williams. But it's almost like, all right, a game, who are we playing? The Eagles? All right, 50-50. Yeah. And then in a game where they're playing a team like the Packers, the Packers is his old team, but a team like the Rams, watch how much Swift is going to be on that field.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm almost just thinking that is there a chance, because both defenses haven't been so great, that this game just plays up. And even if it's a competitive game, I think he could hit his floor. I mean, he's 7,100, which is a totally fair price for what he has been over the last couple of weeks. I think it's a totally fair price is what he's at. And I like Swift a ton this week. Even at the high ownership, I like Swift a lot. I think he is someone that, is just really breaking out this year. And, I think there's other Lions to like too. I think TJ Hawkinson is in a fantastic spot at 5,400. I gave Waller as my pick of the week last week. Obviously he missed the game, but Hawkinson is in the same exact spot. I think the Eagles have given up the 5th most points to tight ends or something like that. And TJ is in for a real smash spot at 5,400 in my opinion this week. So I'm big on Hawkinson. I like Hurts. Gainwell gonna be chalk. But, in all likelihood, he is a very high floor play at 5,000. But if you want to, look at it from a tournament perspective, Boston Scott, 4,400, pretty much split carries with him down the stretch last week. So I think he's a very good pivot at very low ownership. So I think this game's got a lot of interesting spots.
Trending more towards the way you're feeling about the Jets game. I do not trust Hurts to get people the ball enough to make them worthy of a lineup spot. Like, say, somebody like Smith, who's costing the same price of someone like T. Higgins. I just can't bring myself to do it. I like how Goddard looks. I like that Ertz isn't there anymore, and that. But I mean, their leading receiver with 3 catches last week. It's too unreliable. And if I'm taking Lions as I did last week, I need to know it's going to be in a game where they're really incentivized to chuck the ball and not just trying to drown out a slow win with runs. The only person I like is Hawkinson, or the only person I feel confident in. But if I had 5,000 lineups, I would definitely try a thing or two, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, it's a fair point. I don't know how I feel about Hurts coming in as a favorite. I think that's totally fair. He's stacked, but here's the thing: he's been a top 10 quarterback every single week this week, but it's because he's unstoppable in garbage time.
Yeah.
So I do.
Is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as running him by himself with Hawkinson as a run back? Or
people are going to do it. You're going to see a lot of naked Hurts this week, or just straight run back Hurts this week. You're going to see a good amount.
Okay,
for sure. Yep, without a doubt.
Just a quick weird guy. I told you I have one more cheap running back, and the reason I'm going to bring him up is because I smell that this whole country is going to be playing 4,900 Jerry Jeudy in that Denver Broncos game. And my advice is, if you're going to do that, at least come back with something that isn't going to be as chalky as a run back on a secondary stack. And it's somebody that, despite, I'm going to go a little Julio Jones on this, despite being hurt, made it through the whole game, which means you're going to get an even more healthy version of him next week. And if I gave you this price 3 weeks ago, everyone would be taking him. The talent level hasn't changed that much. Play yourself some Antonio Gibson the other way for 5,900. What's it going to hurt? What's it going to hurt? He almost got into the end zone last week against the Packer. He kind of unluckily stumbled into a bad game while hurt. While relatively hurt. Give him another week to heal up. We know he guts it out. He'll pretty much be out there the whole time. And do you really see them? Do you see the Broncos running away to the point where it's going to be one of those McKissick games? This is the opposite of what I just said about Swift. This is a game where they're going to be close and Gibson's going to be on the field. I actually have not shifted off him and Josh Jacobs the whole time. In close games, they're going to be on the field. They're going to get most of the run. And that's what you're going to get this week, I believe, from Gibson. Now, if you could just pop one, you're good. And at least that will give you some percentage away from Jeudy, because everyone's going to play Jeudy. My mom doesn't play DFS; she's playing Jeudy.
So it's funny because I want to talk about this game actually in general, but I like McKissick more than Gibson still. He played for 64% of the snaps last week. I think people are going to be way off him after somewhat busting in a really good game environment. And I think in Denver, with how bad this Washington secondary is, I actually think this game goes over. I love Teddy Bridgewater this week.
Yeah,
I love him.
The Candyman Bridgewater always plays down or up to his competition, though. Like, if it stays rusty, he'll just keep taking check down. It's like he plays to not let the game go too far one way or the other.
I don't know. I don't know, man. They've let him throw 33, 49, and 38 times in the last 3 games, and none of those games have been complete smash spots except the Raiders game was a 34-24. So they do let him throw a little bit.
But they were trailing big in all those games. That's the problem.
But the Browns game was competitive.
Well, they were
right.
They weren't down. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just I think at 5,400. You only need like 24, 25 points from him if you nail the rest of your construction. And at this, at home against Washington, this is I don't use guys like this. I don't.
Oh, dude, I don't disagree with you, by the way.
This is a spot.
But also justifying Mike Gibson.
If Judy's going to be chalk, which I mean I haven't looked at that, but Judy's fine. But I'm way bigger on Cortland Sutton, who has like the most. He has the most. I think he has the most targets of over 20 yards or something on the season, and. He looks really good. And he's obviously developing a rapport with Bridgewater, and he's only 6,200. So I like that skinny stack a lot against a team that can't stop outside receivers for anything. So I like a Bridgewater Sutton with Gibson or McKissick type run back, or even Ricky Seals-Jones, who's still too cheap and is playing 100% of snaps. So those guys are all solid plays for me in a game that isn't going to be attacked too much. Obviously, the over-under concerns you a little bit. It's only 43, but I think again Bridgewater at that 5,400. That's why I would only do a skinny. And not invest too much equity into your lineups from this game, but I think it makes sense if you nail the rest of your construction.
Perfect. You have the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the New Orleans Saints, and I think just out of history, people will always say, "Oh, we got to get in on this game" because of like when Breeze used to play them and whatnot. I am gonna choose this game as my. You better be careful. This is gonna be my one that a lot of people are gonna play. Players from, expecting the Bucks production from last week, Kamara's production from last week. That's a recipe for disaster for Kamara unless they truly get him utilized as an unbelievable receiver again, like they did last week. But you're not going to be playing Seattle's defense. And then on the other side, yeah, probably one of those receivers is going to have a day, but you're going to have Lattimore, who always gets into these battles with Evans. Maybe Godwin will have a day. I do not think Brady's going off. I think this is going to be a lot lower than people think, which is why the Bucks, who are perpetually predicted 32 points. Now, I mentioned last week they're like the new Chiefs in a way, where it's just guaranteed that they're up there. They put them behind the Bills, Chiefs, Rams, Cowboys, Cardinals, which means they're coming in as the 6th highest projected total, which means there's some people, Terry Benedict, behind closed doors in Vegas is smelling the same thing I did, which, this is going to be a little crusty in there in the Superdome.
Yeah, and I really hate when there's legit no good run back and a 50-point game total. So obviously you can make a case for, Brady, Godwin, Evans. You could do all of that. Howard, even if Gronk doesn't play.
Gronk is coming back, they said.
Right. Well, so it's right. So you can make an argument for all these pieces, but the problem is Kamara, we just saw a ceiling game from. They finally figured out how to use him in the pass game, which they should have been doing a long time ago. And maybe he has that floor again, but at that price this week, the Bucks are fantastic against the ground. I don't think Kamara is putting up more than 45 rush yards this week. So, yeah, can he get there through the air once again on a run back on the other side of the Bucks? Sure. But is there anyone else on the Saints that you feel even remotely good playing? I don't. And maybe if the Bucks are able to, hit over their team total, score up 35 points again, you don't need a run back. But I do think there are other more attractive game environments this week. I'm fine with a lot of Bucks in secondary spots. I think Fournette's in a decent place here. But, again, I'm with you here. It's just something doesn't really sit right as far as popping off the page for me, despite what the numbers might tell you.
Yeah, and I know I've mentioned this a few times now, but Kamara popped on a Monday night with everybody watching, which means you're going to get a high ownership of him and have to pay $9,000, whatever the hell he is, or 83, whatever it is high, and you're going to be like that guy who played Henry this past week, and even though he had a good game, not enough for what you paid for him. So.
Right, exactly.
Next, like that MTV show where you thought a girl was ugly and then she walked up to you and you just got to yell directly in her face. Next, as they just got caned off, like, it's one of those performers.
Those early 2000s to mid 2000s MTV dating shows were just absolutely ridiculous. There was that one, the one with the parents watched behind the couch. They were watching their kids go on a date, and they have to then decide if they would let them go.
We have to make sure that we take certain cartoons off of Netflix and whatnot. But no, don't worry. Don't talk about next, where you had some insecure person come off a bus and be told they're so disgusting they're not worthy of 5 seconds of a date and are told to scram. In-person Tinder.
I used to get home from school and really just throw those on. It was just like
you used to get home from school and turn on Room Raiders, where these people showed up at your house and broke into your house. Like they would storm by like the FBI, all to go into your bedroom and see if they could find stains on your bed using a black light. That was the whole goal of the show.
Picture middle school Gary warming up some chicken nuggets right after school, throwing on Room Raiders, Pimp My Ride, and Next. And I was loving life back then. Those were the good times.
So, what do we have anything next?
No. It's time for the M Dubs.
All right. I'm a disgraced Men's Warehouse user. I would like to bypass going to this week's wedding.
Disgraced Men's Warehouse customer.
Yeah,
they have a lot of those.
Oh, they have tons. They're just disgraced for different reasons. So what I'm gonna go with, in my disgraced fashion, I'm gonna go with T. Higgins. T. Higgins against the Jets for a mere 5,200. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. They're going up against the Jets. People are probably going to be all over Jamar Chase. Look, Jamar Chase he has the looks of like this year's DK Metcalf, just an absolute freak, nasty beast. Yeah. And T. Higgins got an absurd, I'm talking about a beyond absurd amount of targets. Double digits, I'm willing to say up to 15 targets. So give me that against the Jets defense when everyone's going to be playing Mixon, everyone's going to be playing Jamar Chase. I'm a side door sneaker. Is that a real term? No, but I like to sneak points out the side door of games. When everybody's focused on people, yeah, give me some Carter in that game. Give me some T. Higgins in that game. That's all I have to say about that. T. Higgins is my Men's Warehouse after a brutal weekend of Men's Warehouse pick of the week.
You know what? I'm a fan. We talked a little bit about it off air real quick, but Higgins is someone this week that if I am going to pick pieces of that game, he's probably the guy I'm looking at because, you know, Chase, obviously everyone's all over it. 5,200, too cheap for that target share. I think he's a good pivot to mix in just in general. And it's a good spot. So
I will say this. I do have one more, but with my Men's Warehouse, since what I did to you last week, I feel like I shouldn't be able to say, oh, Daryl Henderson in a bounce back spot. I'm going to have to jump a deeper mile because I screwed people. You are allowed to say Daryl Henderson if you want.
Well, here's the thing. Can't. So I might give out two because I feel terrible. Darren Waller last week is ruled out. I hope some of you guys played Foster Moreau because I certainly did. I was like 5x the field. He was 2,900, was 6 for 60 and a touchdown or whatever. You know why? It's because this Eagles spot against tight ends is a fantastic one to attack, which is why I'm going with TJ Hawkinson this week as my Men's Warehouse pick of the week. He's 5,400. That is too cheap. He's starting to look like he's finally, wiped off this injury concern that he had been having to, I believe, the tune of, what has he had?
He's had a couple back because remember he was a Men's Warehouse performer a couple weeks ago.
Right. So over Detroit's last two games, 14 catches for 122 yards on 20 targets. So he looks to be back to normal, and you know they're attacking him regardless of game script here. I'm a fan of Deandre Swift as well, but I actually think Hawkinson has the higher floor this week. So I love that at 5,400, and I'll give you a bonus one just because I can. And maybe you don't think, paying up for the second highest receiver is a good Men's Warehouse pick of the week, but at 8.8% early ownership for Stephon Diggs in a matchup at home where the Bills love to lay it on against the Dolphins, Kupp's going to have triple that ownership probably. I love Stephon Diggs, who looked to finally come out of a funk 2 weeks ago in that loss against Tennessee. I think we see a huge second half of the season for Diggs, and I think it starts this week. So I'm pretty excited about both of those guys, Diggs and Hawkinson.
All right, well, the way I can introduce the other person that I was going to use for my Men's Warehouse pick of the week is just by introducing my lineup, which has this guy in it. And that other player who I wanted to use, but I didn't use for my Men's Warehouse, was Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, who all of a sudden maybe is just about becoming the forgotten piece of the offense, despite his beyond monster year last year. And I'm using him as a double stack with Justin Herbert as my quarterback, Keenan Allen, obviously, and Austin Eckler. Now, typically, I do not use the running back as a part of a double stack, but I truly believe that the Chargers are one of those teams that just don't have a run game. They literally will never run if they don't want to. And Eckler is their kind of slot receiver, third receiver. So I look at him as having the equal possibility of a receiving touchdown this weekend as either of their two monster receivers. And since they are playing the New England Patriots, my thought is that defensive staff, Belichick's son and those faces he makes, like Raymond Calitri, if you don't know what that is, old movie, go look it up. Raymond Calitri, that's him. So I'm going with, Herbert, Eckler, and Allen against the Patriots because people are probably a little too high on this Patriots defense for my liking. Now they're shuffling across the country and going to play the Chargers, who I think they just had a bye, right? And they were coming off a disgraceful loss to the Ravens. They're in a spot that I really like for them. And on the other side of that game, I'm running Hunter Henry, who's been a relatively nice producing tight end this whole season. Games. And now you remove Jonnu Smith, the other person he was contending for targets with, I believe. I know he left the game with an injury. My early thought is if he couldn't come back, you're not getting a full Jonnu Smith, even if he is able to make it on the field. And it's going to be a great game script where they're probably going to be down. And Mac Jones, rookie over the middle, all his passes are short. And that old scummy revenge narrative game is, something that always can be brought up. My secondary stack, I'm going with those side door sneakers. Carter from the side door sneakers. That sounds like a fantasy team name. That sounds like that's what my Draftkings name should be. Side door sneakers. Carter from the Jets, 4,900. Already told you, 8 catches or something like that. He's going to have a ton of targets. Same quarterbacks in there. In a game where they're supposed to be trailing big, I'll take it. I know Johnson will get in there. I'm not sure. I know he left the game with a concussion. Not sure if he came back. But on the off chance that it's just Carter and then they activate Coleman, you're looking at a bunch of potential catches for him. And what if he sneaks into the end zone? Decent upside for him at home. And then T. Higgins, my Men's Warehouse pick of the week, all those targets, think it will pay off against the Jets. Then I have a random floater in Calvin Ridley. One of these days, he didn't screw anybody last week. He got a touchdown. He got like 50 yards and a touchdown going against Xavier Howard. He's going to be home against Carolina with those other options there to open up space. Probably Pitts now is really, people are going to be focused on taking him out of the game. He has Gage there. Not like he's a great player, but at least will maybe open up some space because of the familiarity within the offense. And my defense, I'm going to go the Bears against the Niners. Niners a team. Yeah, people are saying bench the quarterback. Don't bench the quarterback. I heard Debo might have a, sore calf. And if he doesn't play, what do they got? Bears at home have had some awesome defensive performances, and that is the lineup. Oh, no, it's not. I got that wide receiver position that you said needs to be sprinkled into the lineups, and it's to run the opposite of Calvin Ridley. I guess I must have just passed over him. Robbie Anderson. He's another T. Higgins guy, just without the likely production, but he supposedly is like the first receiver ever to have that amount of targets and run that amount of routes without that amount of production. And indoor against the Falcons, I like him. I like him to get a deep touchdown, a 60-yard touchdown from Robbie Anderson. And so I have full correlation in my lineup, no floaters.
I like it. I actually really do like it. I'm not just saying that. I really almost went in on a Herbert lineup also against you, and I'm kind of really, really into the Chargers this week the more and more I dig in. So I think that might be my favorite side to kick on. It also reminds me of that Cowboys-Patriots game that you called out a couple weeks ago as kind of a sneaky one. I think this is very similar, where the Patriots can kind of let themselves play up into these shootout environments a little bit more than we think, or at least kind of hang in there against good offenses. So I like that a lot. And also the Anderson thing, I saw something where he's like 10th in targets over the last 3 weeks, but like 75th in yards and fantasy points. Like, that doesn't make sense. So I think he has the yips, but hopefully he can get out of it this week. So,
well, the good news is it's not like it's some guy that they're trying to say, like, he's getting all these looks and it's just not working for. Like, we've seen him look great in the past, so he just has to shake it.
So my lineup, I almost went a Herbert lineup against you, and I really thought about going one of my down 2 quarterbacks, which, guys, I will be using plenty of Carson Wentz and Teddy Bridgewater this week, just letting you know that now. But I'm going to go the other way because this stack is way too low owned in my opinion. I'm going all the way up. I'm going to Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. Give me all of them. Give me it, and give us our guy that we were talking about on the run back. Give me Myles Gaskin on the run back, who is a great pivot to those 5K range. 5,600, got 15 carries last week. We saw him have 10 receptions against that game against Tampa. Very, very similar game environment. That game ended 45-17, and he had 32 points. Would you be surprised at all if this game ended 45-17? Not even a little bit. I think, it could be perfectly go that way for him. So that's my full-on game stack. Then I'm going to go Daryl Henderson at 6,500. Just, again, I think that is way too cheap for what his role is this week. Still had 15 carries last week and 6 targets. Not concerned at all about his volume. And, Houston doesn't scare you in any way. Michael Pittman, 5,300 is my only just floater of, actually, no, that's not true. I have 2 floaters this week, but is a floater this week. I just love his floor. I love that he is really, really starting to come into his
high
own.
volume running backs are not really floaters, because they don't.
Oh, no. Henderson's weirdly not a floater. But I haven't gotten there yet. But Pittman is a floater, and the only concern with Pittman is that he really seems to produce, yet his targets sometimes can be a little bit low. However, he's clearly Wentz's favorite target, and Wentz has really started to play well the last couple weeks, so I'm not too afraid about it in this matchup. And at 5,300, I think he's got a 30-point ceiling. So I like Pittman. And then tight end, my men's warehouse pick of the week, Hawkinson. But my flex on the other side of Daryl Henderson is Nico freaking Collins, baby. Let's go. So you actually hit the nail on the head with the Ramsey thing. He's going to be on Cooks. He's got 11 targets the last 2 weeks. He's clearly come in and presented himself as their number 2 receiver. They'll be chucking from behind. I think he'll be able to, he went 2 for 6 last week with 28 yards. I think if he gets 7 or 8 targets this week, all you need is 4 for 40. Maybe he falls into the end zone at 3,200. I'm fine with that as a tournament punt. And then I'm able to squeeze in the Seahawks as my defense at 2,800 at home against the Jaguars.
Hey, here's the double-sided coin. The two-faced Harvey Dent coin about Nico Collins this week. So this could be great news or it could be awful news. Those targets and that, second option to Cooks was with Davis in there. What's Davis Mills? Yeah, Davis Mills. I never know when I see if it's Mills Davis or Davis Mills. So his production has been with him, or kind of production, with Tyrod coming back. Does that mean, a slightly better quarterback, you can get a slightly, even more use out of that discount? Or is it going to be one where he doesn't even get a single look because Tyrod would rather just take running back, tight end, running back? That's the double-sided coin, but the good news is it costs you half a coin to play him at 3,200.
Actually, yeah, I don't have much of an opinion one way or the other. I think they're going to be down enough in this game where Tyrod's going to have to throw a little bit either way, and Tyrod's just a better overall quarterback. So even if you think that Mills has practiced more with Collins, so there's some merit to that, I think Tyrod's just a better player. So, I think it evens itself out, and the targets will be there for him either way. I don't know if Tyrod's back. If he is, that's great for this game. I actually think it actually makes me like the Stafford side a little bit more, and looking into that. So I got to find out more about what the deal is with Tyrod, but it sounds like it's at least 50-50 that he's back this week, which is exciting there.
All right, I'm gonna do one quick look. It was this is from the Houston Texans Twitter. QB Tyrod Taylor set for return.
Okay, well that's good.
Is that a scam? Is that a scam return where it just means he's back at practice or something?
Yeah, well, he was designated from IR, but he doesn't have to play for 3 weeks.
What scumbags! I got clickbaited by their own Twitter.
No, it's still looking like it's 50-50 this week. I'm reading that he's designated. He's starting to make his way back, but that Mills might still start this week. Sounds like it's 50-50 either way. Collins is a fine run back. Andy, I got to run.
No worries, man. The games are this Sunday, and it's actually Halloween. Yeah. So, trick or treat, motherfuckers, as they said in what movie was that? Do you remember?
Nope.
This one's on me. Trick or treat, motherfuckers. Anyway.
All right, I gotta go prep for some NBA
Gary.
stuff.
Hopefully, you replicate your millionaire from Week 8 last year,
so.
And I will see you next week.
All right, take care, my friend. Good luck in Week 8, everybody. Everyone have a great Halloween. Enjoy the rest of your October, and go Giants.